Hi and welcome to a very cool tutorial about a cool Flickr search, which we already began with the last tutorial, which was this one, iOS Swift Closures tutorial, and we used closures to create a completion block which enabled us to download some Flickr images and then display them randomly. This wasn't very efficient and it wasn't that cool either. But today we're going to create a cool Flickr search that brings the last example a little more forward using just one view controller here and a little search bar. And if we type something like nature, you see there's a little bouncy animation to indicate each type. And if we hit the search bar, we get a lot of cool images, and see they are ordered in a UI collection view, which we will give a nice parallax effect. And as you can see, when I scroll down, they're loading asynchronously, so they're loading in the background. That enables us to download them very fast and display up to 100 images at the moment, but we are free to change the amount of images that can be displayed here. So let's just start by going to the last tutorial and download the tutorial files. So there we got them, and bring them to the desktop. And there we go. So there's the Flickr viewer, and we are going to need some of the files here because we're going to use the Flickr helper class, which we already created. So we're going to need the Flickr helper and Flickr photo. Let me bring them to the desktop, and so we can actually erase this folder again. And then let's just create a new project in Xcode. Let me bring that window here. And we're going to create a single view application. This is going to be called Flickr Gallery. And click Next. And let's choose the desktop and create. And let's first prepare everything. So we are going to need this little icon here. So let's open the images folder in our project and just drag it right here, and we will use that as the 2x version. We will just have to keep in mind which size this image has. So this has about 380 by 380 pixels. And we're going to divide that by 2 to get a retina resolution. And then let's just start by dragging those two helper classes to our project as well. And copy items if needed, add to targets, and finish. And then we will just bring that up a little. And the first thing we're about to do is build this application to see that there are some errors. And these errors occurred because we now use the beta 6 of Xcode, which was released today. So we have to do some fixes here, but the compiler is helping us. So let's see. We have to unwrap this value here, so let's confirm that. Also, what have we got here? Invoke init. And we'll have to make some changes here. So let's go under the status equals fail and create a message object, message string, to start a string here, because this one wants a string here, arrow key as an arrow key. So we'll give it one. So let's add the result dictionary object for key message here. Of course, you can later download the the finished version of this file, so that you don't have to follow along here. But I just wanted to give you a quick demo on how to handle these changes in the SDK or in the Swift syntax. So let's just follow along, and let's cast it to a string, and then assign this string as the key here, which is the message string. All right, let's build that again. And there's only one error left. Last time we accessed a dictionary, the result dictionary, and got another dictionary which is called photos. And by saying object for key photo, we got an array. This is not possible anymore. So let's break this up into two parts by creating one dictionary ourselves. Let's call this photos dictionary, and this is going to be an NS dictionary, and we can now just copy this bit here, say that this is an NS dictionary, and then just use this photos dictionary here and rebuild that, and that's it. Well, okay, we are going to return to this class in a while because we want to have to make some changes here. But for now, this is all right, and we're going to switch now to the storyboard. And because in this tutorial we won't handle the new size classes, let's disable them by unchecking the use auto layout check mark here, and we will start by bringing this view controller into a navigation controller by going up to the menu, say Edit, Embed in Navigation Controller. There we go. There's now a nice little navigation controller. And we will then just give this a quick title, let's say Flickr Search. And we will also need a bar button item, which we'll bring up right here as well. Call this search. And what we also need is a search bar. So let's just add it right here. We can give this search bar a little placeholder text, like search for photos. This looks quite nice here. And what we also need is a image view, which we'll bring up here. And remember, our image had dimensions of 380 by 380 pixels, so we will set that to 160 by 160 and bring this to the center. And then we can just select the Flickr image here, and that's it. We won't need any buttons here because the keyboard is going to be shown all the time. So let's make some connections here. Let's first start with the search bar by control dragging it right to the right here using the assistant editor. And we will just call it search bar, connect. And then we're also going to connect this image view in order to do our nice little animation. So this is the image view. Connect this as well. Let's do that again. All right. And now we have actually everything in place. So let's start by activating the keyboard when the app launches, just by saying search bar dot become first responder. This will enable the keyboard immediately. And what we're also going to need is the search bar delegate, because we want to see when the text changed to make those animations happen. So let's adopt the UI search bar delegate, and that's actually it. And now we can also bring up another view controller, which we're going to use. This view controller is going to be this one here, and we will place a collection view within this one. So let's create our second view controller. and just place a collection view in it. There we go. And because black is a little dark, let's adjust some things here by starting with the background color, which is going to be a group table view background color, and we will also adjust the background color of the cell also to group table background color. And now we make some adjustments to the cell itself by starting with the identifier, which is going to be a Flickr cell. So that's fine. And we'll also adjust some of the size properties of the collection view by saying that one cell is going to be 320 pixels in width and let's say 180 pixels in height for our gallery to work. And if my mouse reconnects, we can continue. And this was actually the first step. We will now need to create some of the view controller classes in order for this to work. And let me just give that 160. 180 is a little too much. Right, and now let's finally connect those two view controllers by putting a push segue here. And now we are ready to create all the classes needed. So we have already started with the view controller .swift class. This is connected automatically with this first view controller, which you can see here. This is the view controller class. And we will now continue with the gallery, which is also a UI view controller. Click next and create. And now we can just go to the second view controller and say that this is a gallery view controller. And we will also need to create our own cells because we want to give them these cool parallax effect as this gallery. So let's say Flickr UI collection view controller UI collection view cell. All right, create. And there we have it. And now we can also assign this class to our collection view cell, which is a Flickr cell. And now just add a custom class, which is called Flickr collection view. I think we are almost ready. We will need to make a quick connection here between our collection view and our gallery view controller class. So let's say we have a collection view here. And they are connected. And now we can maybe start with the little nice animation, which is really, really easy to create. By doing that, to do that, we will just go into our view controller Swift class and add one of those search bar delegates, which is search bar did change text. And also we shouldn't forget to add our delegate to the search bar, which is self. And now we can say that we want to do an animation. We use UI view animation, and we use the use spring with damping and so on function here, which was introduced in iOS 7. And this will give us really, really a cool looking animation, which you have seen a minute ago. And we will say that the duration is going to be 0.4 seconds. There's going to be no delay. We will use, let's say, a damping 0.3 and an initial velocity 0.8. And we will say that this is a UI view, animation, options, let's say a curve, ease out to make this really smooth. And we'll have an animation block here, but we don't need a completion block. All right, and now, because we wanted to this animation to happen actually every time the user types something into this search bar, you see it's getting smaller, it's getting bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger. So how are we going to do that? We will just create another property here, which is going to be a variable. Let's call it step. It's going to be an integer, and we'll assign just 0. And now we can say that if step equals 0, then we want the image view. We want to transform the image view. So let's use the transform property of the image view and make a CGF in transform make a scale, transform scale, make scale. It's make scale. Transform make scale. And we want to scale it just a little by 1.09, 1.09. And we will have to set our self.step to 1 now, because now if this method is called again, and we also have to say self here because we are within a closure and need to add self here. And now we can enter the else, and we'll actually do just the same, self image view transform, and now we will use the transform identity to set it back to the standard size. So let's say CG transform identity, and now let's say self.step equals 0. And that should do it, and now we should actually be able to run the application and see some nice results. There we go. And when we begin to type, there you see there's our nice little animation. Cool. What else have we got to do? We need to, let me bring the simulator over here. Which doesn't work because I'm in full screen, so let's go back. Actually, I don't want always to get in full screen mode. I miss the old magnify button, but anyway, the one thing we need to implement as well is when the user presses this little X here, we want to delete the text that is already entered into the search bar. So there is the cancel button clicked, and we can just say that the search bar dot text equals an empty string. So if we run this again, type in a little search string and press the cancel button, it's empty again. We don't see the keyboard because the Xcode 6 simulator hides it sometimes, and you can just press Command K on the keyboard to bring it up or down, which is actually quite useful sometimes. To transfer now this search string we've entered here into our other view controller, we're just going to use the perform segue with identifier function, and because we only have one segue, we don't need to check for the identifier. We'll just create a destination view controller, which is going to be a gallery view controller, and we can now use the we're in the wrong function. Actually, we have to use prepare for segue with identifier, and we already wrote that, so destination view controller, which is going to be a gallery view controller, and we can now use segue.destination view controller to get this one, and we have to cast it to a gallery view controller in order for this to work. And what's missing now is a property to store this this search term. So let's create one by just saying var search term, which is going to be a string, and it needs to be we need this so we can explicitly unwrap it directly here. And once we prepare for the segue, we want to say if our search bar is empty, dot text is empty, and just say not. Then we can actually say destination view controller dot search term, and if this happens, you need to rebuild Now build succeeded. Now we can say destination view controller search term equals our search bar's text. All right, else we'll just make a little alert view. Let alert, this is a UI alert controller, UI alert controller, title, please enter a search term. And this is not an action sheet, it's an alert controller, so we have to define the style as an alert controller, and we have to give this a one button, which is okay, saying add action. This is a UI alert controller, a UI alert action, which we've got here, and this is just going to be okay. UI alert action style is default, and we don't need a handler here. So just say self present view controller, and this is the alert animated true completion nil, and then we have also a view, an alert view, which shows us that we need to enter a search term. So we are ready now to begin programming our gallery view controller, which won't succeed if we don't create our Flickr collection view cell. So let's start with that by giving this. So you see, this is a pretty empty class, and we need to do quite a lot here. We will start with two properties that we are going to need. There is going to be an image view, which will hold the image, and there is going to be an image, which is a UI image. And we're also going to need the offset in order to create this parallax effect. So there's going to be an image offset, which is a CG point. My keyboard lost connection. There it is again. And now we have to do some initializers. So let's first override just a standard init with frame. Init with frame function. So let's call super init frame with frame, and let's also override the init with coder. We'll use the required keyword here, init with coder, and call super init with coder, a decoder. And we need that in order to call our own function, which is called set up our image view. And we will just call that right after our super call. So let's say set up image view and set up image view. And what we're going to do here is just some quick adjustments. So let's begin with clips to bounds, which we clip to subviews so that we can see our parallax effect even if the images are bigger than our cells. So let's set this to true, and then let's create our image view. This is the image view, say UI image view with the frame CG rect make. Let's start by self bounds origin, not offset, origin X, and self bounds origin Y. Width is 320, iPhone width, and 200 pixels in height. And now another very important step here is the image view's content mode, so that the images don't get distorted or scaled up or well, basically ugly. So let's just say UI view content mode, and we're going to use scale aspect fill, which is the best choice here. And also we need to say that in this case the image view don't need self here, image view clips to bounds is false. So let's add our image view to the cell by saying self add subview. We're using self because self is the Flick, not Flickr, cool. The Flickr collection view cell. So we are going to add our image view to our cell, and that's it actually. And now we're going to use some nice new Swift features because we want this want some things to happen once we set the image. So let's open some curly braces here and implement a getter and a setter for this property. The getter just simply returns self.image, and the setter first sets the image to its new value. You don't need to cast anything here. It knows automatically that the new value is an UI image. But what we also need to do is setting the initial offset. So let's say if the image offset is not equal to nil, so if it has an image offset, let's set the image offset, but we need the image offset. We need to create this method first, and else we want to set the image offset as well, but with 0, 0, because there is no offset yet. So I think that we're good to go to write this offset method. So let's say function set image offset, and there needs to be an image offset that we can set. So let's say image offset CG point, and let's first store this new offset in our class itself. I'm using self here to distinguish between those two names. And what's this? Oh, all right. That's it. And now we need to grow the image view itself to achieve this parallax effect. Let's therefore first save the current frame, which is a CG rect, and say this is the image view dot bounds. So we now have the frame of our image view itself. And then let's create an offset frame. So offset frame, also CG rect. And we can use a very handy function here called CG rect offset, which creates the offset for us. We simply have to say which frame we want to start with and what the actual offset is. And this is self image offset.x and self.image offset.y. And now that we have that, we can just say self.image, no, we don't need the self here, image view dot frame equals our new offset frame. That is the set image offset function. So let's go back to our image itself and setting the actual offset by saying set image offset, and there we have an image offset because it's not nil. And here let's say set image offset, and we'll have to make a CG point here because this is 0, 0. All right, this seems like we have completed our Flick collection view cell. So let's now go back to the gallery and implement all the necessary stuff for our gallery. We're using a collection view here, so we're going to need, similar to a table view, some delegates. We're going to need UI collection view data source, and we're going to need the UI collection view delegate. And we are also going to need the UI scroll view delegate to achieve the parallax effect. So let's get rid of this code here, and let's start to implement our missing are missing collection view, delegate, and data source methods, which is first collection view, number of items in section, just return 0 here to get started, and also collection view cell for item at index path. You see, this is pretty similar to what we are doing when creating a table view, and that actually is all we need for the collection view. Now let's also implement scroll view did scroll, which we're going to use later. So we're good to go, and we also need to say collection view delegate equals self, and our collection view data source also equals self. And we will need to store the data we get from Flickr in an array. So let's create a Flickr results array, which is a property. So let's say Flickr results and its mutable array equals its mutable array. And then let's also create a load data, or load photos function here, which we will write now, load photos. And what we do is very, very simple. Actually, it's pretty similar to what we did in the last tutorial. We will first create a Flickr object based on our Flickr helper class, which is a Flickr helper. And we will then just say Flickr search for string, which is our search term, and use the completion handler that we wrote last time, and we will just define that this search string is a string, and unwrap it. Flickr photos is an NS mutable array, and the arrow is an NS arrow. And the code that we are going to write has to occur within a dispatch async block. And we can do this after we check that there was no error. So if our error object equals nil, then let's call dispatch asynchronously by just saying that we want dispatch get main queue. Don't need any of this other stuff here, besides from the block. And we can now, what's missing? Actually, we can just comma. Yes, that's it. Because we need to do this because all the stuff that happens in our Flickr helper happens not on the main thread, but we want to save the data we get from this from our helper method from our helper class on the main thread. So let's now call self.Flickr results, and we will. This is a mutable array, and we will assign the Flickr photos that we got from the from our completion handler here. And we could also reload our collection view here. So self.collection view reload data. And when you remember the last tutorial, or you don't, it's just fine. What we have done here is we have created an array of real Flickr of real Flickr data of photos. This time we're just going to store the URLs that are pointing to the photos to make a really fast app which loads the photos really fast asynchronously. So to do that, we will just have to make some minor adjustments to this class. We will use this search URL, and what we don't need is this stuff here. So we can just comment that out, but what we can use again is the Flickr photo photos, Flickr photos mutable array. And instead of adding such a Flickr photo class, which we have created last time, we will just add the search URL. And this enables us to download the images asynchronously for each cell in our collection view. So to do that, it's now time to enter those delegate methods. And let's first get rid of that 0 here and say that we want to have exactly as many results as we have exactly as many cells as we have results. So Flickr results.count. And if I remember correctly, we had a huge number here last time. No, it's just 20. We could really increase that to 100 now, but we'll see that later. So now it's time to create our cells, which is also, again, very, very similar to what we do when creating table views. So we can return a cell here, exactly as when creating table views. So let's first create a cell, which is going to be a Flick collection view cell. And we will say that we use the collection view here, collection view, DQ reusable cell with reuse identifier. This is Flickr cell for the index path Flickr cell. Remember, we have assigned that to the cell here, Flickr cell. Let me copy that again to make sure that it's right. Flickr cell for index path. And we have to cast that now to a Flick collection view cell. And let's also say that every time this function is called for a cell, let's say that the image of the cell is going to be nil. This is going to save a lot of memory. And now let's create a QUE which is going to be a dispatch QT equals dispatch underscore get global queue, and this is going to be dispatch underscore queue priority default with a flag of 0. And now we can say dispatch asynchronously again with our queue and the block. And in this block, we're going to do some awesome stuff. So let's first create an error, an error object, which is going to be optional. And we now use create a search URL, which is an NS string, which is just a string. And we can now say self Flickr results object at index, and now it's not indexPath.row, it's indexPath.item, and just cast it to a string. And now we have the URL that points to a photo stored on Flickr. And now we can just download the data at this URL by saying we have image data, which is an NSData object, and say NSData with contents of URL with options and an error object. So let's say the URL is the is an NS URL from our string search URL. We don't use any options, but we want to assign this this error address here. So if there was no error at this point, then we can assign the image that we just downloaded to our cell. But therefore we first have to create an image. So let's create an image, which is a UI image. And this is a UI image, and we initialize this image with our image data. And now we have the image. And the tricky part now is to do that not asynchronously, but do that again on the main thread, because our user interface lies on the main thread. So let's say dispatch asynchronously, and now we dispatch to get the main queue. So dispatch get main queue with a block. So open, close, and curly braces, and just enter our code here. No need for anything else. So let's say cell.image equals our image. And now we need to set the offset of our cell in order for the parallax effect to work. So we'll create a Y offset, which is a CG float, and we use the collection views content offset, which is the point at which the origin of the content view is offset from the origin of the scroll view. So the origin in Y direction, and we subtract the current frame origin, the current frame cells, the current position of the frame in Y direction. So frame origin dot Y, and then I have to put this in parentheses, and divide it by 200, because this is our cell height as we define it in our cell class, the image view height, and then also this one we'll multiply this by 25, which is going to be the velocity of the scroll actually. So now we can say cell.image offset equals cg.make 0 in x direction and our y offset. And that's it actually for our cell. Now all that's missing is actually the scroll view. So let's just have a quick look on what's this like. So let's search for Apple search, and there we get an error in our Flickr helper. Don't know really what this was about, so let's just try it again. Entering something actually. Search for it, allow, and then we get an error. Let's see where that takes us. Oh, I see. We of course should not set the image itself to the new value. We should say that the image view .image should get the new value in our Flick collection view cell. So when we set that, our image view receives the new value. So let's run this again. Again, search for something, test, allow. So we're connecting to Flickr. Actually, we're receiving 100 results, but we can't see them. So what's going on here? If not, I see. We said if error not equal to nil, so if there was an error actually. So if error is equal to nil, then there was no error, so we can actually continue. Run this, and let's see what happens. Say search, allow, and there are images. And what you can see now is actually pretty cool already. We have an asynchronously loading gallery here. We just saw 100 images. And what we actually want is a nice parallax effect. So as I told you, we're now going to implement this scroll did scroll functionality by just iterating actually through all the views in the scroll view, all its visible cells, and setting a certain offset, which we already did actually when we created each cell. So let's just say for view in no, we don't need self, in collection view dot visible cells, which gives us all visible cells, and now we have the views in this of our collection view, and we can now say that each view, let's say, that each view is a Flickr collection view cell, and we can say view as Flickr collection view cell. And now we can create an offset, which is a Y offset, similar to the one we did before, which is a CG float. And we can now calculate this the same way we did before, taking the collection view, its content offset, in Y direction, subtract the cell's frame origin in Y direction, divide that by the height of the image view, and multiply it with 25. You can change this value as much as you like to create the effect you actually like. So now let's say view.setImageOffset. This is the function we created in our cell. Let's say CG point make 0 and our Y offset. And if we now run the application again, we'll get, let's say, data. Allow, and then we get this nice parallax view effect. That's pretty cool. Let's have a look for Swift. What's happening then? Nothing related to this great new language. All right, so now you have actually seen how to create a UI collection view, how to create custom cells for this collection view, how to download data from Flickr asynchronously. We have created this this nice helper class in the last tutorial, and using it was now really easy to create this cool Flickr gallery, and I'm sure you can do lots of things using that. And you also use this nice animation effect so that the search field is not that boring. So have fun doing this, and if you have any questions, as always, feel free to comment below.